welcome to It's Our Year Sports. We took a little time off. We made too much money from our football videos, and we got too much of a fan base that we had to take a minute off to just
I
pull ourselves back together.
I had to get off rehab.
But we're here now because right, and we have all had to go to rehab. So there's that too. The second round is over of the NCAA basketball tournament. We're just going to kind of break down the brackets here. Let's start with the Midwest. Adi, what happened in the Midwest? How did you feel about it?
The bracket of death. I mean, the fact that you have Louisville, Michigan State, and Duke in this bracket, I feel like all three teams got kind of screwed for performing really well, yet getting placed in a crazy bracket. So, honestly, let's go top to bottom. I feel that Louisville had the easier road, being the number one overall in this entire Midwest bracket. So,
well, obviously, yeah.
Yeah. The game against Colorado State, I felt I felt bad for a super fan of the Rams. Just sitting there a little
sweating. He was sweating.
Sweating. Yeah.
He was sweating it out. But I'm a big fan of Siva. I think he's one of the best point guards in the NCAA. And just the fact that he's been with Pitino so long, he's understood the system. He's one of those guys that you want at this time of the year. The Memphis-Michigan State matchup, man, I did not see this blowout coming from Michigan State. It was great.
Oh, that was a good feeling. There's always a sense of paranoia when you play after Michigan in football or basketball and they've won and you have to win to keep pace. But I really didn't see Michigan State just blowing Memphis out. That was crazy to me. But we rocked Memphis, and that felt really good.
What about Harris? Harris was just hitting everything that first half.
Oh yeah, he went off. Obviously, though, there's a little bit of concern with Appling's shoulder. I'm as an MSU fan, I'm pretty scared about that thing because it popped out real easily against Minnesota.
He can still whip a towel pretty well, from what I saw.
Yeah, he can whip a towel pretty well, and that's important to note. But he I don't know. I think we look good. Usually I'm a little nervous about us, but honestly, we're built to win this tournament. We've got Adrian Payne can make threes, and he leads the team in rebounds, and he's just a maniac. Nix finally actually plays well, and then it kind of depends on if Harris and Appling make shots. If Appling's hurt, though, a team like Louisville would knock Michigan State out because they do the full court press the entire game, and that's how they knocked Michigan State out last season.
Hey, Valentine can bring the ball up the court. That's about it.
I think there's only one surprise.
He's so bad.
There's only one surprise in this bracket, and that's Creighton. And even though Creighton was the higher seed, after Creighton has thoroughly disappointed us, and they consistently disappoint us, they actually pull out a game against a Big East team. Granted, the Big East sucks, and Cincinnati's not the Cincinnati of the past or the fighting Cincinnati against Xavier. But they've got to be the biggest surprise of the bracket. I mean, they pulled out a win against Cincinnati, even though they were favored. I think that's the surprise of the bracket. Not Oregon. Oregon is the best 12 seed I've ever seen, and
that's right.
I'm all about my boy Kazemi. Kazemi, he's straight up from Iran, first Iranian basketball player in college basketball, tearing it up. So Oregon to me, I mean, they're the most underrated 12 seed in the history of college basketball, and who didn't? If you picked Oklahoma State, I want to know exactly what you were thinking. I mean, I didn't even know Oklahoma State had a basketball team,
Oh, I know, and my favorite part is St. Louis going out because I know that I was texting you guys during the game about how excited I was that they were going out, but I really hate all these mid-major teams. I'm over it. I'm cool with the Cinderella story. I'm fine with it. I'm happier when it's Oregon. But it's I like the Cinderella story, but Gonzaga just doesn't deserve a number one. I'm sorry, come back when you play a real schedule. The bullshit RPI, that measures it. They play all these Division II teams that don't weigh against it, and it's the Mountain West Conference had the highest RPI coming in a tournament. I'm sure the Mountain West was the best conference in college basketball this year.
According to Charles Barkley,
they only went.
True.
Yeah.
They all got knocked out immediately. So I don't know. I get happy when teams like St. Louis, coming into the tournament, it sounded like New Mexico and St. Louis. It was all over, ESPN and CBS and all these other stations. They're like, oh, New Mexico, they're going to go to the Final Four, and everyone's like, I have actually got St. Louis winning the championship. And it's like, whatever, you know what I mean? And they both went out. They lost at Harvard and Oregon. So, their seeds add up to what 26. So I don't know. That was my
Well,
favorite part of the Midwest.
why is Charles Barkley doing college basketball?
Why
I
is
know
all the NBA people doing college basketball?
they're the worst because
Why is Alec Baldwin everywhere? Do you guys know that Alec Baldwin's everywhere? He's all over the place.
Yes, it's true.
All right, so who do we got coming out of the Midwest?
Well, I would say moving forward, to be honest, in my bracket, I picked Duke to win the championship. I think after seeing the start to this tournament, I actually think I believe in Michigan State now, which is hard for me to ever actually admit out loud. I think even though my bracket says Duke, I'm pretty sure that I think that Michigan State is going to beat them. But we can't. We're so bad at the full court press that I just feel like Louisville is like our natural nightmare team to play against, and I would say Louisville will probably handle Oregon. So I've got Louisville beating Michigan State in the next round, moving on to the Final Four at this point, even though I had Duke before.
I've got Louisville in my bracket just because, but I think it's going to be Michigan State. This is going to be one of those special years. I think as a Big Ten fan, you're never going to see this again, and I think you're going to see either 3 or 4 teams in the Big Ten. There's a chance, even though that sounds very, crazy, but I think there's a chance that there's going to be 4 Big Ten teams in the championship.
It doesn't sound crazy
Final
though,
Four.
when you look at it. When you really think about the
Ohio State and Indiana have a free pass.
Ohio State has a free pass. I mean, you look at it like Michigan, Kansas is totally one of those teams that blows it. Florida is probable, but like who knows what this Florida Gulf Coast team is going to do. And I don't know, like Michigan State, I think Michigan State has the hardest route for sure, like just between Duke and Louisville. But I think that they could still do it, and I think the other ones are a little more likely. But Ohio State should just walk to the tournament.
Yeah. If I'm a Buckeyes fan, I've got my tickets to Atlanta already. So
you guys, so I actually had an All Big Ten Final Four, and I had Michigan State and Michigan meeting up in the final, and I had Michigan State beating Michigan.
I like the sound of that.
And the fact that that's still an opportunity, like something that can happen, is incredible to me. I would love to see that All Big Ten Final Four. Personally, like that would validate the entire Big Ten season to me.
I know.
I feel like Adi is promoting a great Big Ten party that me and Smolinski are at right now.
So we've got 2 votes for Michigan State, which scares me. And actually, Wilbon has been saying that they're going to win it all week. So, thank
you know why?
Wilbon.
So this is my rationale for Michigan State. This is one of those years where there's no clear-cut winner. There's no Kentucky, just outclassing everybody. There's a lot of teams that are playing really well. There are teams that are playing kind of tentative, and there are a few teams that are upsetting. So at any time when you have no clear-cut cream rising to the top, I'd say coaching plays a big role.
It comes down to the coaching and, honestly, the home court. You want to know why Michigan State and Michigan blew out VCU and Memphis? I think we were better teams, but I think the home court played a huge role. The stadium was crazy for both teams.
You're absolutely right. Yeah.
So that's why I picked California over UNLV. That and because the Mountain West sucks, as previously stated. But I still think it's going to be Louisville, though. We just can't handle the full court press, so it's just not going to happen. But anyway, let's move on then to the West.
Okay.
Just looking down at the bracket, I called the Ole Miss over Wisconsin. I knew that Wisconsin was going to lose immediately because they can't score any points, and their bullshit slow the game down methods only work on other Big Ten teams for some reason, and like other teams just end up figuring out how to score on them and knocking them out. So I called that. I did not see LaSalle coming. Not that I believe in Kansas State necessarily, but it's just my friend Brad, I was watching the game with him, and he actually told me that LaSalle was from Louisiana, and that's what the LA stands for. And then later I found out it was in Philadelphia. So
yeah, that's a Philly school.
I don't think anyone saw that coming. And then I guess the Harvard game was really funny to watch. I tried to call Belmont over Arizona, but Arizona was just way bigger and better. Called Notre Dame just because they also blow it in the tournament every year, and Ohio State was looking pretty good.
All right, so can we talk about Ohio State, Iowa State? Because that was an incredible matchup. So
It
I
was a good one.
forgot that Lucius is still playing in the NCAA.
Oh yeah, if you wrong Tom Izzo, you get on his bad side, he ships you out to the foreign state,
He's in the
and
cornfields
you gotta
now,
live.
but you know what? This is his one chance to come back, and I feel like Iowa State had that perfect mix to really upset a better team. They they weren't making shots at the rim. They weren't really playing great defense, but they were hitting every three, every chance that they got. And
Oh, Lucius played out of his mind.
yeah, and I was watching the game with a few Buckeye fans because since I live in Columbus, and people were ready to choke out Aaron Kraft when he was missing those free
Oh,
throws. When he fumbled the
yeah,
ball
that was
out
my
of
favorite
bounds.
part.
And then he waves Thomas off too. This is the best part. Waves Thomas off, and then he hits the shot. So I don't even know what to think. I can't personally root for Ohio State because I've hated them for so long. But you know what? I'm looking for that All Big Ten Final Four. So I feel like it was a great game for Ohio State moving forward.
Lucius been out of his mind. I forgot he existed too. I thought by now he would have been playing NBA D League basketball at Rio de Janeiro or something. But um, no, I actually disagree with you on the Iowa State thing. I think they're playing amazing interior defense. I mean, Ohio State could barely drive. I mean, they got a few towards the end, but you got guys like Deshaun Thomas who are constantly playing around the perimeter. And I think Amir Johnson or whatever got in foul trouble early, but a lot of these guys, weren't driving. And then in the second half, I mean, when Ohio State was up comfortably by 10, what
13.
really shocked me was Kraft stopped handling the ball. He turned into a shooting guard. And I don't know what the hell was going on with that, but he didn't handle the ball for like 5 or 6 minutes, and then he started getting fouled. You could tell he took himself out of the game, and he was just not into it. And so they came back. He missed all those free throws, and way to redeem yourself. As much as I hate Ohio State, that's an amazing shot. And here's my one pet peeve about basketball. You get these big guys who guard guards right when they get switched, and then there's 3 seconds left, and then the clock's ticking 3, 2, and then when the guy tries to like fake drive, they always bite. With 2 seconds left, who's going to drive the ball and try to take it in for a floater or a layup? They're going to shoot the ball. But I've never seen a time where the guy didn't bite. It's like just sell out and guard the shot,
No,
and then
I know what you mean. I feel like you watch it every time, and it's just like it's down to like 2 seconds, and he goes to do this his stupid pump fake move, and the guy bites on it every single time. I think maybe it's just you can't see the clock
no, you have a
as
mental
well.
clock in your head as a player. You have a mental clock in your head, and on top of that is, here's your worst case scenario. He gets by you, okay? Help side defense no matter what. There is no opportunity for a pass. So that has to be like if some guy's just going to isolate you, like if LeBron James I was guarding him, right? I'm selling out for the shot every time, and then if he gets by me, there's going to be a weak side guy or help side guy that's going to help you out. There's no chance for a pass. So
You're
I'm
right.
sorry, I don't understand why basketball players think like that. It makes no sense to me.
Personally, I would love to see you guard LeBron James. I feel like you'd really
Yeah.
show him. You'd really shut down that Miami Heat streak. But more importantly, I think you're right. I'd rather have a contested 3-point shot than have somebody try to drive through. So
Yeah.
you always try to play the shot anytime there's less than 5 seconds left on the clock.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the last part of that game. I actually found myself rooting for Iowa State just because even though I had Ohio State in my bracket and also I was rooting for the Big Ten, Final Four, I found myself rooting for Iowa State, and I felt cheated a little bit at the end when that I felt like it was probably a foul on Aaron Kraft and not a charge on the guy from Iowa State. You know what I'm talking about, where he had like his
I know.
heel up.
Yeah, but that's all Charles Barkley trying to cover himself and make himself feel like he was right. You got to admit, like the only guy really crying about that was Charles Barkley, and then somehow it became a
And
media.
Skip. Surprise, surprise. Skip Bayless didn't like the call
Yeah, but
either.
somehow it becomes a media story, and I'm sitting here thinking, if anyone actually watched that game, which Charles Barkley didn't watch that game,
Right.
if anyone actually watches that game, I hate I hate Ohio State. Okay,
We all
and
do. Let's be real.
all the
We
calls,
all hate Ohio State.
all the
We
calls
should,
went in Iowa State's favor. I mean, everything was going Iowa State's way from the ref's perspective, and Ohio State was starting to get screwed on some calls. I'm sitting there thinking, uh, Ohio State's going to this game's going to get out of hand because all the refs were going their way. And for that one 50-50 call to go Ohio State's way, that can't be the difference in the game.
There was plenty of time left for Iowa State to recover. That was a minute 40 left on
oh,
the clock.
either way though, I felt I was rooting for Iowa State. I guess maybe partly because Hamed was trying to like be all anti Corey Lucius in the group text. That we have, so all of a sudden I was like, "Come on, Corey, just put it in Hamed's face." From a scale, all right, a scale from 1 to 10. How honestly shocked are you that Wichita State beat Gonzaga? Because I'm at about a 3 max, maybe a 2.
I think a
I
3
picked
solid.
Gonzaga.
Wichita State's a good team. Gonzaga was playing soft. They were playing anti like Gonzaga basketball. They were playing like Gonzaga being a number 1 seed, which Gonzaga should never play.
Yeah, that's true. But was it really about Wichita State though, or is it just that Gonzaga is clearly some fake horrible mid-major team that doesn't play a real schedule and therefore will never be tested enough to play and win the tournament? They had that one magical run in like 1999, and since then, like everyone wants to just like hold on to Gonzaga, and I'm over it. Like, I have a hat, all right? I have a Gonzaga hat that I bought in 1999 when I was like jumping on the bandwagon, go Zags. I was like, they're my second team. Why not? I can have a hat. So, you'd think that I would be on the bandwagon for life, but it's over. I'm done with Gonzaga.
You're saying you have a hat.
I thought you have an acceptance letter.
Oh, yeah, well that too, but I have a hat.
First
So,
of all, he's got a hat.
First and
You're not a
foremost,
fan, dude.
yeah.
You're beyond a fan.
Yeah, I'm a big deal on Gonzaga campus. But I mean,
they were
how
one
do
of
you
your
feel?
finalists, right? They were one of your finalists when you were getting recruited to go study supply chain management.
I remember actually threatening to my parents that I was going to apply to Gonzaga, but then I think it might be a Christian school, so that might have ended that pretty pretty fast. But
So saying the West.
no, hold on.
Right.
I'm making a point here. How do you feel about Gonzaga? Hamed, where are you at with? Are you with me? Or are you just done with Gonzaga? Do you think is
Yeah.
the honeymoon over?
I can't blame them for being number one. They're not like a team like Florida jumping to college football in 2006 that was crying about being in the national championship game, or all of these SEC teams that literally market themselves through coaching and just cry to the media all day. So they're not crying to the media. They're not even asking for respect. I actually feel bad for them. We're the ones that put them at number one. The media. We as in the media.
We the media.
And you and Adi as in the media.
So we put
them.
at number one. We set those expectations. I feel bad for them because they probably knew damn well that they didn't have a chance.
I agree. I think Gonzaga is better off as an underdog than a number 1 seed. I didn't think that the style that they played was Gonzaga in the regular season. They played really tentative, and they played not to lose, which
Oh, you watched a Gonzaga game this year? Against who? Like Oakland Community College?
well, let's be honest, they're number 1 for a reason. They
Yeah,
killed
yes.
Oakland Community College.
Yeah, where you been watching these Gonzaga games at?
I didn't think they were on TV.
As a fan of the Pacific Northwest, let me tell you that
Yeah, I think they played
ESPN
Vancouver, the
Coast.
University of British Columbia.
Yeah,
the
whatever, man.
ESPN East Coast bias has really been hurting the Zags' national viewership. However, despite that, I found ways to catch up with them. and
Bullshit. All right.
I don't like the way they play.
We all know you didn't watch Gonzaga during the regular season. It's better.
Nobody watched Gonzaga.
Move on.
Even
You
Gonzaga
never
fans have
watched
never
that.
watched Gonzaga in the regular season.
I'm not going to sit here and let you lie to the audience. Yeah. So,
Should we bother?
Adi, who do you think's coming out in the West? We got Wichita State, LaSalle, and that team will undoubtedly lose to the winner of Arizona, Ohio State. So I guess I'm asking you who's going to win Arizona, Ohio State.
So I guess the real question is how badly is Ohio State going to whoop on Arizona and then probably Wichita State, which is
Yeah,
quite
probably
badly,
Wichita.
quite badly. Aircraft's going to have about 20 steals by the time those two games are done. Uh, Thomas is going to have 50 points. Ohio State's coming out of this. They're clearly way better than any of the remaining teams in the West.
Yeah, that again, Gonzaga and New Mexico were just a joke. It's a big joke.
I've got two brackets, one safe bracket I like to call, and one kind of risky bracket, going with your heart. In
Right?
my safe bracket, Ohio State's my national champ even before all this crap happened in the West. So I've got to, obviously Ohio State, they should win these games by 18 points each at least. So
Yeah, I'm going to take Ohio State. I think the Big Ten rolls in this one. So you guys have an Ohio State Michigan State matchup here in the Final Four. I got to say, Ohio State kind of had Michigan State's number this year, so they're kind of built the same way that we are to some extent, but with like a little shiftier white guy like Kraft. So they've got the shifty white guy edge on us. So I would have to take Ohio State in that game, I think.
I've got Ohio State. I don't know how they stumbled, and I'm worried that the one team they'd stumble against is someone like Arizona, but you got to go with a winner there. But I think going into the tournament, they're playing the best basketball in the country. There is no one even close to them. They're on their own level. They're by far the number one. But they had that game comfortably. The game against Iowa State, they were comfortably ahead, but Aaron Craft stopped playing. So if Aaron Craft gets in foul trouble or stops playing, that's the only way to take them down. But yeah, I've got Ohio State.
I have Michigan State beating Ohio State in the Final Four, and the reason for that is I feel like what do we always say, Hamid? You don't beat a team three times in a row.
Yeah. Adi knows that from fantasy football. The 1 year I won.
So in that spirit, last time Michigan State and Ohio State played, Ohio State barely won that. I think it was like 61-58, and I feel that with if as long as Appling's healthy enough to play reasonably well, so he's said that he's already hurt his shoulder once before. He understands he's not going to
Right.
re-aggravate it. He's as long as he's willing to play through the pain, which I feel like if he's not, Derek Nix is going to whip him with towels anyway. So I,
Right.
I have Michigan State winning this. I don't know why. I feel like Michigan State's a better team than Ohio State, just looking through all their matchups. That Memphis team was tough, and the fact that Michigan State made them look silly, just encourages me with Michigan State's pick.
So long as there's not a Royal Rumble right behind Izzo on the sideline during the game.
They've been on the same team since seventh grade. It's going to be fine. Everyone's fine.
It was a lot funnier in my head, when I was playing it out.
So we got 2 votes for Ohio State, 1 vote for Michigan State. Let's jump to the other side of the bracket. We're going to move on to the South bracket. Hamid, what stuck out to you? South.
Well, first of all, I'm going to say I had Michigan going to the Sweet 16. That wasn't a big surprise to me. I think they were the best 4 seed out of the 4s. I think Michigan's really a top 7 or 8 team in the country, so they should have been more like a 2 seed, but 2 or 3 seed. But when it comes down to it, you look at Michigan, the local support. They've got one of the most fickle fan bases in the country. Basketball's relatively new to this generation. Since I don't know about you guys, but I don't remember the Fab Five. We like to think about them, but I don't actually remember watching them play like these other guys. So in our lifetime, basketball has been down, and this generation is really hard to grasp basketball at Michigan. And you had a lot of people that when losses to Indiana at home, but from like a putback, the Trey Burke in and out in Columbus after being down like 24 in the first 10 minutes of the game. Some of these, the Wisconsin luck shot from half court. I mean, 3 bounces go the other way for Michigan, and they're a number 1 overall by far. So you just can't doubt that this team is talented. They may not play the style that can beat the Michigan States 9 times out of 10, but 4 4 times out of 7. But I think Michigan's talented. I'm really disappointed in the fan base going into the tournament. You look at DetroitNews.com; they had 6 or 7 writers that came out and said a lot of them had him going out in the first and second round. I think a few of them had him going to play Kansas, but they put that big disclaimer in there, and a lot of Michigan fans jumped off the bandwagon. So now things are going again. We're playing the basketball we need to play. So Michigan, to me, is looking good. Florida Gulf Coast, I actually called that game. That was the easiest 2 versus 15 pick you could have ever asked for. Georgetown is prime for an upset. They haven't made it out of the first weekend in I don't really remember. Didn't Roy Hibbert? Maybe Roy Hibbert took them to the final.
It was something like the last 5 seasons in a row they've lost to a double-digit seed. It was the last 5 times they've been in the tournament, and it's been over the last 6 years because they missed the tournament 1 year.
Yeah, and just to wrap up on
what a joke.
But just to wrap up on that, they were an easy pick because they beat Miami during the year, and we knew that Miami was an athletic team and they weren't just a fluff, power team. So Florida Gulf Coast, that was the easiest 2 versus 15. If you didn't get it, you didn't do your research. So.
But did you have Florida Gulf Coast beating San Diego State?
No, I had San Diego State winning. I let the Mountain West Conference crap. Right. Are they in the Mountain West? San Diego State?
Yeah.
Yeah. I let that RPI crap.
They were the last one that was in the tournament, and now they have completely bowed out. So see you later, Mountain West. Thanks again for another great run in the tournament.
That Florida Gulf Coast game, though, I don't know if you guys watched that one, but they did everything they possibly could to let Georgetown win.
Oh my God!
This team was
not bring the ball to court.
I'm sorry, but okay, that one dunk, the one where he like the ball was like go, you know what I mean? It was insane. Like the alley-oop that was, it was way too far back. I was like, well, they blew that. And Arden just comes out of nowhere and just jams it home. He looked like LeBron dunking over what's his face, Terry.
Except it was a relatively unathletic. I hate to use we're gonna keep race out of this one, but it was a white guy. I
know it didn't look as.
Whoa!
I actually picked Villanova over North Carolina, so I was pretty impressed with North Carolina for 3/4 of their stay in the tournament, and then that last 1/4 of their stay in the tournament, they kind of got rocked a little bit. I think that Kansas will probably handle Michigan moving forward. If I had to guess, if I was putting my money on it, I would just barely give Kansas. I'd probably put it at like 55-45 Kansas. But Kansas is one of those teams that's they totally could just get knocked out. They could have lost to North Carolina. So who knows? But Michigan impressed me. I thought that I picked VCU in my bracket. I picked I keep calling it San Diego State. I picked South Dakota State actually over them, but that was just me being pompous. So there was that. I picked UCLA, but then they're a bunch of jerks, and their coach got fired. And because Minnesota really fell apart near the end of the Big Ten season. I just thought that I thought Minnesota had early exit written all over them. But they beat UCLA. They got a coach that went to 3 straight Final Fours fired, and so congratulations. And then their coach Tubby Smith got fired after they went out in the following round. So that was a kind of a farewell game for everyone. But San Diego State, totally blew it. They had lost to a 15 seed, and what more could you ask for if you're a 7 seed? And you know what I mean? It's only happened like 5 times when the 15 seed wins.
7th time.
Just take care of business. And you know what I mean? Like everyone else before you did. I don't know. Mountain West. But I have Florida just annihilating Florida Gulf Coast. I think it's over. And I think that Florida goes on to beat Kansas because Florida's just they're built right for the tournament. And they score enough points to hang with anyone, and they play well at the end of the game. So I think Florida's going to come out of this bracket.
So I had Michigan beating Florida in my bracket, and I think that's exactly what's going to happen. I feel like so we've already documented how just horrible Georgetown is in general. I don't know how John Thompson still has a job. I think it's just time to let him go. So with Georgetown being probably the weakest second in the entire bracket. I feel Kansas is the weakest first in the bracket. So, well, I have to retract that. Gonzaga.
Gonzaga.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
No, it was
Gonzaga,
after he was watching Gonzaga basketball at
Yeah,
11
I
p.m.
mean, just
Eastern.
based on all my
yeah, he's
based on
got
all
the
my
Gonzaga package coming straight
and
to his house.
viewership of Gonzaga basketball, I felt like they were the worst number one seed. But Kansas is one of those historical number one seed that always gets upset in the NCAA tournament. And this Michigan's team, it has probably one of the best perimeter games I've seen. And with their rising freshman big men, as long as they can hold Whitty, or as I like to call him, Whitey, to an average game defensively and offensively, they should have no problem beating Kansas. And then after that, it's Michigan and Florida. I have Michigan beating Florida.
Oh, I've got Michigan all the way. I don't care who they're playing. They're just a total homer pick, but I mean,
They could be playing the Miami Heat. It doesn't matter.
yeah, it doesn't matter who they're playing. I mean, they're shooting so well, and they got the best guards in the country. I'm sorry, but there's no team that can match up with them from a guards perspective, and then from an overall talent perspective. And granted, this might not mean interior defensive players that clog, the lanes, but from a talent perspective on offense, there can't be another team that's way far ahead of them. I think they're in the elite when it comes to offensive talent. And the tournament is built so that, granted, if they hit the free throw shots, I think this tournament's going to come down to free throws, not rebounds for them, because they can get around rebounds since they have a very efficient offense. They can't get around free throws. So it's going to come down to their free throw percentage, and we'll see what happens. But Michigan, to me, has equal talent as some of the great teams, but their rebounding might not be as good, but it's going to come down to free throw percentage.
So now I've got Louisville and Florida in my Final Four, but I'm starting to feel kind of a Big Ten bias from you guys a little bit. So you guys are in perfect agreement at this point. Am I correct? With Michigan State, Michigan, and Ohio State?
Absolutely.
And I suppose that's going to lead me into the next bracket here. Who would you say that you guys have in the final bracket?
I told you I had
Would you have another Big Ten?
I had the Big Ten Final Four like before any of this happened, and I had Michigan, Michigan State, Indiana, and Ohio State. So I mean, Indiana in this bracket. So Florida Gulf Coast has beat Miami. I feel like Miami can run into a team and just get blown out. They're one of those teams that's really hit or miss, where they'll either really blow a team out of the water, or like Illinois really had the game plan to beat Miami, and it just came down to a few blown calls, I feel, at the end, and a few missed threes. Syracuse is, I think, Al, you already said that. This isn't your usual, gosh, who's the point guard who played at Syracuse for like 20 years, the white guy?
McNamara.
Yeah, McNamara. This isn't your Greg McNamara Syracuse team. Khalif White went off that first half. And then that second half, his game reminds me of a Paul Pierce 2.0, where he's not particularly fast nor athletic, but he just has that old man game. And that second half, Victor Oladipo just switched off on him, and he locked him down. Like, White was standing at half court for half that second half and did not have any desire to really play against Oladipo. So between him, as long as Jordan's shoulders feeling fine, he can play without any pain. I feel like Indiana should have no problem getting to the Final Four, but I feel like they'll lose to Michigan in the Final Four, in the rematch.
I guess from the East, I thought the Temple was going to be Indiana. Basically, I didn't think it was actually going to happen the whole first half. And then, like, the next, 14 minutes of the second half, I was like, oh, my God, Temple's actually just going to beat Indiana. This is huge, This is going to ruin our Big Ten Final Four. How is Temple going to be the team that ruins it? And they just shut everyone down on Temple. And Temple just fell apart and totally blew it. I thought they had Indiana by the throat, though. You have to win, this kind of game, though, at some point in the tournament to actually win it. You know what I mean? The only time that you don't do that is if you're that insane North Carolina team that won in 2009 just blew Sparty up championship They won every game by double digits though the whole tournament.
That was just
Isn't that insane? That's crazy.
yeah,
That's the exact opposite of this
right.
tournament, by the way. There's no team that would even
Yeah.
get close
Which is
to
why I
doing
think
that.
the Spartans have a great
Um,
shot this year, is because there's no team like that. So it comes down to coaching and really finishing off.
right. Well, I wholeheartedly agree because we're never that team that puts up
That.
85 on everyone. We have to like slow down the pace and get in a defensive struggle with everyone. I called Cal because it was a home game over UNLV. Syracuse kind of looked like garbage when they beat Cal, though. That was just an awful game. I don't know if you guys watched the California Syracuse game, but both teams just played like shit. It was really hard to watch. And then you had Butler totally blew it against Marquette after Davidson took. How lucky is Marquette? Like Hamed, what do you think of Marquette? Do you think that they just like do you think that they've got the dagger, or do you think that they're just the luckiest team in the history of the
They're the
tournament?
New York Giants of college basketball.
Oh no.
I mean, straight up, they're not doing it against Big
Yeah.
Ten competition. I mean, Butler, yeah, they're going to pull an upset out of their hat every now and then, but I mean, Butler was a little overrated this year. What are they, 6 seed?
Butler's
Yeah.
yeah.
Do you think they're a top 25 team in the country? That's what a 6 seed means to me.
No, I don't, because they're from a bullshit conference and they all are terrible
I mean, I'll
and
put it
they
this
need
way:
to
when 6 or 7 teams alone are top 25 from the Big Ten, what do you think of a Butler's chances of being top 25 at the end of the season? So, granted,
Be
they
honest
beat
with me though.
Indiana.
Be honest with me. When you saw Butler get that ball back with 4 seconds left,
It was a joke. They luck
I,
boxed that. I
I
mean,
was
come
certain
on.
Butler was going to hit that shot to win. That's just a Butler thing to do, is win those crazy, improbable games that they should not even be in a
Hey,
situation to win.
you play with fire, you're gonna get your fingers burned, and they've just had too many white players for too long.
I
You
guess
know,
I guess I've
too many
got
white.
a little bit against Butler because I was screwed in terms of I went to the national championship Final Four that was in Houston, and Butler and VCU were one of the matchups, which I think 44 people attended, and it was awful. I mean, no one wanted to go, and I'll never forget
VC
VCU fans.
who?
Yeah, I'll never forget VCU fans walking out of Reliant as I'm yelling at the top of my lungs, VC who, and the people I were with couldn't stand my VC who chant, so they left me at the Final Four. But it was only my destiny for Michigan to play VCU and settle that score. So
Butler is, I also have something against Butler because we were supposed to have, if you recall, the fated coach battle for the national championship, which
yep.
was going to be Duke Michigan State. And I remember actually I was at Michigan State on campus, and because Mel was still going there, and we were at some like French movie with subtitles, and I was really bored, and I wanted to be watching the Butler game because Michigan State had already won. And I was rooting for Butler because I was like, "What a joke! We're gonna get to play Butler in the Final Four. Like this." And then and I was like, and I'm sure it's rigged at least, so that Coach K plays Tom Izzo in the championship. That's what everyone wants, right? So I was all excited that in this French subtitled film, I was just monitoring the score on my phone, and I just started actually laughing, like laughing, crying, laughing, almost maniacally when Butler actually won. I was just so ecstatic, and even though it's on campus, literally no one else cared because I was at a French movie. It's not a big
Yeah.
basketball crowd in the theater. I didn't sense
You
it,
have your basketball
because I
fans,
wanted, I
French
wanted to
movie
talk about it.
fans, and not a
Yeah,
whole.
I wanted to high five the scared girl next to me, but it didn't seem like she cared that Butler won.
Mel would have been a
Um,
little pissed.
or at least maybe she was taping it. Maybe she didn't want to know the score yet. I don't know. I didn't want to ruin it for people. So in conclusion, I'm glad that Butler got knocked out, and Marquette's they are the New York Giants of college basketball. It's
Do
a
you
good
guys
one.
see Indiana getting beat by Miami?
No.
Yeah, I picked Miami in my bracket. I actually picked a Duke Miami rematch in my bracket that I had Duke winning. I've of course now changed to Louisville,
I was gonna say.
but yeah.
All
But
right.
at the time, I picked Duke.
So you have Miami versus Kansas.
Yes,
Who do you have?
and I would take Miami in that game because I just can't. Even though it obviously wouldn't be blowing it at that point, if Kansas gets to the Final Four, I don't consider that like their normal Kansas bullshit.
Right.
But I would still I would still say it would be a disappointment. But I think that Miami is just they're a tournament built team, kind of like Michigan State at this point, and kind of like Louisville, where they're the way that their system is set up is they're built to win 6 games in a row, in my opinion.
I feel like all four Big Ten teams are just so well built for the tournament. They've played in what I believe is the best conference for basketball, and if it wasn't for that shot brimming out, they would all four be sharing the Big Ten title, which is amazing to me. Which would be even greater if like that shot did actually fall in and all four had their match.
Yeah, settled it in front of the world.
How amazing is the Big Ten going to be in the next like 2 to 3 years?
You know what? You can't really say that. It's not like SEC football because in basketball you have so many one and dones and talent flushes that it's hard year after year.
I don't think the one and dones. I don't think the one and dones hang out in the Big Ten though. To be honest with you, I mean we had Jason Richardson and Zach Randolph and a few others, but no one really ever bails on Izzo. Usually I mean Kalen Lucas. I mean all these players usually play all 4 years. Raymar Morgan. I mean they all seem to hang around. Do you think that anyone's going pro on Michigan, Hamid?
Burks is good as gone. Hardaway has got to be up in the air, but I'd say he's probably leaning towards it too, and he probably will if he gets projected to be a first rounder. And then Glenn Robinson Jr. is a total wild card. I mean, if people see him as one of the most talented swingmen, I mean, he could go too. So Michigan could lose 3 players. McGarry will stay. Morgan's a junior, I believe.
Morgan's the clear weak link on the team.
Yeah, sucks because he used to play pretty well. Last month and a half, he sucked. But yeah, I got Michigan over Ohio State, and I'm hoping for it, praying for it. Going to the Sweet 16, going to the Elite 8, ready to rock in Dallas. So I've got Michigan all the way. I think it's gonna be one of those special years. They're settling the score with DCU for me, and then we're gonna go. Then we're gonna go play Kansas.
You pit stop for me on the way. It's all part of my destiny.
No, it's just because I'm 1-3 in Dallas. The law of averages has to roll my way. 1-3 in Dallas, 7-game road losing streak, 0-4 all time in road playoff games. It's got to go my way. So.
Well, we have to finish this thought though. So in case you're worried, I don't think Purdue is going to lose anybody to the NBA. But.
Robbie Hummel still has some eligibility, right? I
mean, he's coming back. He's coming back, of course.
What about Juwan Johnson or whatever?
Juwan's playing for the Celtics now, and
okay.
Yeah, well, they've got each one more might go pro.
Each one's playing for the Magic.
Right. Right.
Yeah, but AJ Hammonds, that's my boy right there. Just wait, man. He's gonna tear up the Big Ten next year. But this year, don't worry about it. This year, they're fine.
So, in conclusion, Adi's got Michigan State over Michigan. Hamid, you have Michigan over Ohio State. Is that what you're telling me?
Yep.
And like I said, I had Duke Miami, but now I've eliminated Duke. So So even though my bracket, I will actually still be. If Duke takes out Michigan State, I'm rooting Duke hard in this tournament. I don't even care. I'm jumping on the Duke bandwagon because. I need the money. You know what I mean? I've really been banking on this bracket.
Not a rich
man. You see a lot of nice things on my wall back here. Does it look like I have a lot of possessions right now? That shit's gone. All right, I need these brackets to win. But either way, I guess now I have to think about it. In a Louisville Ohio State game, I feel like I would take Ohio State. I think that I have to say that my new prediction is actually. Ohio State versus Miami, and I think that Miami would win that game. So my new national champion is Miami over Ohio State.
Honestly, for me, I've picked these teams, but it's so hard for me, especially for Ohio State and Indiana. I cannot root for them. I always want them to lose.
Oh, I hate all 3 of them. I want, you know what I mean? Part of me really wants the Big Ten Final Four. Another part of me would be incredibly satisfied if Ohio State, Indiana, and Michigan all got knocked out next
totally
round.
Fine. That's why I picked them. So I picked them.
I feel like the Big Ten already validated themselves talking about it. We're cool. At this point, Michigan State can just take the torch, and we will tell your story. Don't worry, we'll live on to tell the story.